Yeah, baby. Yeah. The Mac is back. Back with another video. Hello, the initiated. My name is Marcus Jonikala, and today we're having a look at a new Heavyocity release. This time, not a sample library, not a virtual instrument even, but a plugin. And this one is called Vast, or Vast, if you're on the other side of the ocean. What is it? Let me take myself to the press release, which summarized this rather well. They call this a creative convolution reverb plugin. So it is a reverb, but out of all of the media material here, you can tell that they want to describe it as being something more. I get an idea here that it's kind of a sound design, sound building tool rather than just a reverb. And indeed, they call it here expressive designer tool. And they say redefines audio manipulation, transport your sound into impossible spaces, they say. So yeah, getting an idea that this is intended to be far more than just a convolution engine, and also, tilted towards being like a creative toolkit. Now, I've said this for years already, that sound designing and the audio production quality of Heavyocity is absolutely their strength. They can take sound sources, put them in their engines, and they can make fantastic sounding stuff. Just the creativity and the production quality of the sound design of those sounds is just top notch, and that's, in my estimation, Heavyocity's strength. So them kind of realizing that and taking that and making a tool that encapsulates those qualities is something that I'm super excited about. And also, I've said this for quite a long time as well, that I like tools that are sort of creative instruments in their own right. I know this is a plugin, I know it's an effects processor, but if they're done well enough, they're designed well, put together in a interesting creative way, they can become creative tools in their own right. So that at least the concept makes me excited, because we have the kind of the pedigree or the legacy of them doing fantastic sound design, and then we have this approach of a creative tool that is attempting to do its own thing and spark creativity. At least this is the stuff that I'm getting off of this all this media material. The website page itself doesn't really give us any additional info here. Let me just go ahead and actually just open up the press release to give you a summary of the pricing here. Availability, so this was released 2 days ago. I'm on the 3rd of February now, so 1st of February was released. Introductory pricing seems to be $79 US. And then if you have Fury, Punish, or Punish Lite, you get an extra $20 off that. So that makes it $59. And yeah, full pricing. Can I see what that is? Yeah, $99 seems to be the case. Cool. So first of all, pricing seems actually very reasonable. Obviously, we haven't touched the plugin itself yet, so we don't know. But $100 for a good creative reverb seems rather reasonable. And certainly the if you own Fury, Punish, or Punish Lite, that pricing becomes even more attractive. So it seems to be very well priced in that regard. Basically, the website, tries to describe this in what it is. And I have found it to be the case that if you actually make like a thing of its own, it can be very difficult to describe and sell to the customer, because maybe there isn't anything like that out there. And I can see many people see, okay, it's a convolution reverb. I have many of those. I don't care. I'll go with what I have already. So I understand that they try and over communicate. That's not a criticism. That's just a descriptive word of how all of this text is written on the website, etc. They emphasize their creativity. So that's something to keep in mind if you're just about to brush this off, that this could be a creative toolkit for you. But that's pretty much what the website touches on. In terms of transparency, might as well touch on it at this point. Heavyocity did send me this copy, so first of all, thank you to Heavyocity for doing that. That being said, all opinions are my own, both in good and bad. I haven't been asked to say anything one way or the other, nor would I ever do that. And I'm not being paid to edit or film or put together this video otherwise. In terms of what we're listening to today, I have a track from the upcoming soundtrack for Breachway, which is a video game. And we actually have, I believe, a playable demo coming out in soon. I don't know when or if I'm allowed to say stuff, but regardless, the track is from that. It's still very much a work in progress. This is actually a track that is still in a very raw state. I want to do a bunch of stuff on it, but I thought some of the elements here might work well with a tool like Vast or Vast. So yeah, kind of electronic, cinematic stuff, and then we have some percussion and some strings. So I thought that would maybe be a half decent combo. Let me go ahead and duplicate one of these tracks over here so we can mess about as much as we want. Let's start by just having a look at the interface here. Up here, on the top left, we have this kind of a general setting stuff with tooltips, OpenGL graphics, reset size, documentation, and about. Okay, cool. Nice and tidy there. Big preset bar at the top. Click on that, and we have many folders: reverbs, guitar, drums, vocals, creative textures, creative echoes, and then reverses. Seems like a pretty good way to lay out these things. Bit of a mix. We have some instrument perspectives as an approach, and then kind of just typical reverbs. Usually I tend to prefer an approach that is based more on the quality of the sound, because something good for guitar here can obviously work wonderfully for a synth or drum or whatever, a vocal, depending on the part. So this has perks as well, because maybe some of these are going to fit really nicely for your guitar or drum or vocal parts, etc. But yeah, no complaints here. Seems to be pretty tidy. We have a fair amount of presets here. Not overwhelming and not nothing. So seems to be a pretty decent balance. Personally, I'm mostly interested in the creative aspect of this. Not to say that it can't do fantastic other reverbs as well, but we're probably going to emphasize the creative textures here, creative echoes. I kind of see these as extra dimensions of having a good sound source, but then especially for this soundtrack, I'm going for alien kind of tech. Like, I don't mean alien as in aliens from space, but just like otherworldly textures with a technological futuristic vibe. So I'm looking to add those kind of layers on top of the sounds that I'm using. So we're probably gonna, emphasize that aspect, and then I do want to hear what the reverbs sound like as well, especially these immense ones, because I'm always looking for big space reverbs. Here in the top, we have the waveform display. It says drag and drop a WAV file or an AIFF file here to load your own impulse response, or double click to open the factory library browser. Let's do that, and that happens. And here we have a bunch of IRs. And this could be a sort of a different approach to using or exploring this plugin, instead of going with just a kind of complete preset stuff. To the left, we have an input slider. To the right, we have an output slider. Very sleek, this interface. Super clear, super concise. The contrast is fantastic. So I can see this being very nice to work with, even though we've just started to look at that. And also, you can toggle the waveform display here from wave to spectrum to give you so it's a display mode control. Switch between viewing the amplitude waveform or the frequency spectrum of the impulse response. That's actually really cool. I really like this, and probably prefer the spectrum control, because a lot of the time with reverbs, one of my primary interests is to know what the high frequency content is going to be like, because that can too drastically change your sound, and then you end up cutting a lot of the high end and the low end. So this is interesting, and I would suspect pretty useful as well. In the middle, we have boxes indicating different types of signal processing. We have a gate, which probably functions like a gate. We have an EQ, always important for a reverb. And that opens up a different interface here in the middle, a visual interface. Or, you know what I mean. Delay window, cool, nice and clean. And then you have your convolution window, which is probably the most central one. Mix knob, nice. Compression. Yeah, I can see how this synergizes creatively pretty nicely. But, oh, okay, you can also drag these as you wish. Makes sense. Super sleek, the interface. Very responsive. Not janky at all. Cool. All right, I think next up, let's listen to the first instrument we're going to be using here. This is a synth. This is kind of like a bleepy bloppy, combining retro aspects of synthesis with some just basic synthesis. I did something. Let's undo what we did. What the fuck? Yeah, sorry. I'm just messing about in the DAW apparently. Cool. So, yeah, let's listen to the synth and give you an idea of what we're looking at here. Also, I have a limiter on the master bus to make the level decent for this video. It is set to be as transparent as possible, so take that into account, and we will probably be adjusting the level as we go through here. right, so there we have a more of a drier version, which is obviously going to be useful here. So yeah, dry part, and let's get some kind of a decent level here. So that's the basic idea. We have that bleepy bloppy synth, and then a bit of like it's not a pad-like sound. It's kind of called like a trombone here, apparently. But yeah, kind of something swooping in a sort of a denser way. So this should give us a pretty good idea of what this reverb can do, because we have a combination of transient elements meeting these kind of swelling elements as well. So this is the preset that it opens up with. It's called Lush Synth Hall. So let's keep that in there and see what happens. This is just as default. Very, very lush indeed. This sound is obviously intended to be used for more like a pad type of a thing. But what I like out of the gate is the kind of the swirling. There is a density to it that is very pleasant, and then that kind of modulating, swirling aspect. So that feels pretty nice. Let's go into the creative textures folder. Let's try and find something. Actually, let's start with creative echoes, because we have this transient sound. So let's do 16 mouths fading. So right off the bat, I'm liking this, because we're not just dealing with adding delay, adding, reverb onto a sound. It's actually putting us in a different place. And that's exactly what I'm looking for as a composer, as a producer. Take me to a different place, give me a different sound, give it a different texture, give it a different creative angle. So really liking this concept right off the bat. Let's just go through some more of these presets and see, the quality of this, the character of it. Again, same thing. Those dimensions, it's creating some the delay is going sort of back there in between. This puts me in a different place, different world. So really liking this. Let's continue on the presets. Yeah. Really digging this. Normally, I mean, you can obviously do this with a combination of other plugins. I mean, you can have a convolution, reverb or engine. You can have a gate, you can have a compressor, EQ, delay, etc. And there's nothing wrong with, doing that yourself. And many people love to do that themselves. You will have to do, you will have to model this signal chain yourself, and maybe do some parallel or serial configurations depending on what your DAW allows you to do. and how easily, that's a different story as well. But for someone like myself, I much prefer this angle. You know, I am an audio engineer, I am a mixing engineer, but also as a composer, I'm looking for tools, and also as a producer, that give me instantaneous different creative perspectives. So in that situation, I don't want to pull up a delay, a reverb, EQ, compressor, gate, etc., and then start doing the signal chain. I'd much rather just, you know, get to a different perspective and then you get a different creative idea, because fundamentally this would be for me in the realm of a compositional tool. Like, I want to still write this song, how is it going to sound like, and plonking something like this in there to get a different creative idea is what I'm looking for as a compositional tool, obviously as a productional tool as well. But yeah, really digging this. That's going to be amazing for like a big space reverb that still has a bunch of movement. Moving on with the presets. I love on that one, it's kind of like it bounces between a lush reverb, but then it kind of dries out suddenly on you. So it's like you're in between this sort of, are we going vast? Are we going big? Or are we staying here? That's a very nice push and pull. Super cool. Yeah, very nice. Again, we're in a completely different place, like completely different sound creatively. For me, this is like a songwriting tool, like a soundscape building tool. That's super nice. Okay, that's cool. Obviously, it's introducing some pitch shifting there, but that could already be like a compositional tool, like straight up, obviously, because it's affecting pitch so clearly, changing the composition. But sometimes you want to be using something like that. So yeah, I mean, here in the delay, yeah, shift the pitch. Yeah, so that would be an example of not doing the pitchy shifting stuff. Really cool. What I'm super impressed by is the imaging here and the smoothness of it, because we have such clear and distinct placement of these different effect elements, and they're not, you know, fighting. Well, they're doing a bunch of things, not fighting one another, and actually building like an interesting soundscape here. And also the smoothness of this is super impressive to me. That's something I've noticed, you know, with Fab Filters R2. That was when I listened to that reverb, I was like, like this, the graininess of it is very smooth. Like, and that might sound bad. Like when you say graininess, I don't want my reverb to be grainy. All of them are gonna, like, if I think about it as a flow of sand, like how smooth is the sand? How tiny are the grains, like, and touching it makes it feel very smooth. That's probably a weird analogy, but like, yeah, what is the texture of it like? And there is going to be a smoothness or a roughness, and that one sounded very smooth, and I'm getting the same kind of vibes here. It's like, it's very like honey like. I really like that. Interesting to be hearing the kind of more just reverbs later on, but this is very nice. I want to max out the pitch here, so this is going to be an octave, I presume doubling, well, octave up on the delay. Yeah, this is good. And again, listen to that imaging on that one. It's like super clearly placed. And we're not even like the sound source. Let's bypass the reverb. Very, you know, sort of kind of blobby in the middle there. And by the way, sound source here is the, what is this? Mosaic Keys. Yeah, I'm using all of the Mosaic lineup here on this soundtrack. This is Heavyocity as well. But yeah, I mean, beautiful how it's, the imaging on this is really, really, really super impressive. Let's move on to the next preset. Clipping the limiter here, let's get our levels straight. Okay, so going into that lusher soundscape, we don't have a good sound source for this, so let's keep on these sort of more delay-centered or focused sounds. Really digging this. I'm definitely going to be using this on this soundtrack already, because you can just take a sound and it's going to be in a completely different soundscape. Whether that works for your track and your sound or not, just obviously depends on you and your decision as a composer, but this really quickly puts me in a different place, and I'm like, ooh, yeah, that actually works really nicely. And what I love about this is that it's a very dynamic tool. It's like we have a lot of movement. It's not just like a delay, maybe doing some stereo stuff, and then just like a reverb on it. This genuinely lands in that creativity camp more than just like, this is an effect. And here again, what I'm impressed by is how it manages to create that push and pull. It's like creating those pockets of reverb, but then it pulls back and then it's sort of super close to you. So it's like we have this tremendous push and pull. Also there where there's like a metallic character there on the sound to the sort of right. Very pleasant. Again, that gives a completely different vibe to the sound. Super nice. Again, played with the pitch a bit there. Very, very cool. I think we found the effects for this sound. This is just a perfect pairing to how I see this track being. Beautiful, like sprinkle. I mean, it's called sprinkles, so. But they are sprinkled. The delay sort of to the side, and we have that pitching, which nicely kind of enhances the vibe that I want to go for. Fantastic. Fantastic. Again here, beautiful swelling, like back and forth, giving a bit of that lush wash, but then pulling it back, keeping it close. This is super, super important, and actually super, super rare. Usually, like so often with effects, you put on a delay. It sounds fantastic. You put a reverb, sounds fantastic. But things sort of become too stale. They stay put too much. And that's obviously where you as an engineer are going to do automation. You can do some, sidechain controlling of those things, and you should do those things. But to get to this kind of a level, you just get like a master sound designer's imprint immediately. And going from there, tweaking it is for a lot of people is going to be a far better way of getting to a fantastic sound, getting something like this, and then doing your own tweak to do on it. This is, again, with the Heavyocity products, I've said this many times before, you get like world-class sound design at your fingertips. You get world-class sounds, and then it's up to you to make that fit together with other things to make it sound like a good track, and obviously take the inspiration from there and write your music. But I mean, this gives you that same thing, but in the effect form here, in terms of like reverberation and delay, and how that creatively can build a beautiful soundscape. I had one other thing that I wanted to touch on there. Yeah, so again, with listening to something like Gravity 2, it's very, very apparent to me that the trajectory of Heavyocity stuff is going upwards. And as I've said before, that's super impressive because they've already been really, really good for many, many, many years. But it's just getting better. Like the maturity in the mixing department is improving very drastically. Like they've had fantastic sound design for a long time, really inspiring, interesting textures and movements and sounds. But with the older stuff, I do find myself, having to tweak the mix a bit more to make it like super pristine. But with Gravity, it's like you can hear the maturity of the mixing, department improving. Things that just sit better, more effectively, need less processing. They sit in a very, very nice place. The same development I'm hearing on this one, that it's just inching closer to that perfection. So very, very impressed by the sound stage of these and how mature this sounds. It doesn't do any more than it has to, and it knows when to not go excessive on stuff. And remember, we're just using this one synth now. This is not like in any way hand picked to put this in the best possible light. I didn't even know what this sounded like before we pressed play. So, okay, granted, this is a Heavyocity library, but that doesn't really say much because, it's obviously it does have the Heavyocity sound to it. But I mean, in terms of pairing something with this effect processor, we haven't hand selected anything. And also the sound needs a bunch of work. In my estimation, it is, like I said, very, kind of mono dense in the middle there. So that's also worthwhile remembering. Let's continue on the presets. Again, the imaging on the side, fantastic. That's super, super impressive. Super impressed by the mid-side imaging here, because with that sound, we kind of had the feedback there in the middle, a bit to the right, and then just right behind the main sound, and none of the flooding going into the sides. So super pristinely controlled soundstage and soundstage. It's going to be super powerful for a lot of people to utilize this, because takes quite a bit of mixing, understanding, and application to get to a sound stage that can deliver that kind of separation. Very nice. Again, getting a bit of, there's some kind of a noise feeding from somewhere. Okay, so we have soft clipping, there's a filter, I don't think it's any of those. Don't know where that could be, just the convolution as well. But yeah, really, you know, good range of different textures that it's imparting. Really putting you in a different space. Same thing here, getting that metallic texture in the middle there, obviously contextual to the sound you want to go for, but yeah, I just love how it's like, hey, go here, take a step into a different soundscape, different sound. Sweet. Super nice. I wonder, because I do hear that kind of density, that kind of noise. Maybe something like a distortion meeting, like a light distortion meeting a bit of noise, creating that density. I wonder where that is coming from. And again, I love that as a texture here. It's not a criticism. Could be the convolution profile. Maybe let's see. I don't think it's the delay. Obviously the EQ is playing a part in that, but I don't know. Be interested in learning where that comes from. Cool, let's do a few more for this so that this doesn't end up being the longest video in YouTube history. Crystal Gates. So the noise, the texture, the density might come from simply the reverb meeting the gate, because that kind of creates separation between the quality of the decay versus, you know, not having it. Makes you kind of a parent of the density. Cool, I think that might have like a threshold element. Really interesting, these swelling elements. That's a good example of the mixing quality, because it's like the effect there is staying in its lane in a very precise place. Doesn't take any more space than it has to, but it imparts maximum, you know, impression of what it's trying to do. So that is a very dead giveaway of the quality, kind of the mixing maturity of this, how they design these effects to come together to provide interesting and effective, you know, qualities. Cool. All right. Yeah. Very impressed by this so far. Creative textures. Let's move on into these. We're gonna stick with this sound for now because I don't know what we're gonna bump into here. So probably gonna be a mixture of all kinds of different things. But I'm gonna try and look for something with more momentum because again, we're not dealing with a super like pad like sound, but you know, we'll see what we bump into. Again, I wouldn't go for this sound for this part, but a good example of we retain complete clarity on the source sound, and then on the back we have this lush sounding, really deep reverb. That's really, you know, that is super impressive to me. Very cool. Let's do almost feedback. I have a feeling that's going to be a bit too aggressive. Let's go for this. Yeah, this is really like maximum impression, take up as little space as possible. That's really the highest mix praise that I can give. So very nice. Again, something like that for sound design stuff could be fantastic. That would be, again, sound design stuff. Really good for that. Cool. Let's try and pick from the names here something that probably works better with the sound. So this folder definitely leans more into the the lusher, bigger sounds. So let's actually go to the strings here and try some of the stuff on the strings. So let's start from the other end. Let's do This May Take Some Time. So I suspect this is going to be a big reverb. Yeah, definitely like a very big reverb. Let's try the Lush Synth Hall, which this is the default preset. definitely getting like that darker, sort of more twisted Blade Runner feel from that. Let's do The Dreaming. So yeah, super big, lush. We have too much, you know, harmony, melody, movement here. Even in this string part. Let's do Clouds Below. This is definitely going to be like super cool if you do big synth pad space stuff. Yeah, so this can really like spacify just about anything. Again, for this soundtrack, I really wanted to keep some of the string elements in there, but you also want to tie them with the electronic elements, and just doing reverb in a traditional style hasn't really been working quite the way that I've wanted it to. So this can really be like a beautiful way of bridging those two worlds together. So I'm definitely going to have to be doing more testing on that. Let's do a couple of more. It's a bit of resonant build-ups there. So again, you have to pair it with sounds that don't evoke that, or then you have to EQ it out in the reverb. Different approaches. Let's do Ghostly Voices. Cool. So definitely in that kind of big reverb department, doing its own, you can definitely hear the delay elements in there, kind of that inspiration from there. Let's do Pad Maker. Yeah, that's big. Let's get that out of there. Cool. I think next up we're gonna solo the drums in here. I'm gonna bypass Vast, and let's play this section, get some kind of a level on the limiter. Cool, so that's really the drums from the kind of last-ish section of that track. Very dense part, a lot of, you know, frequency content in there. Let's go into the drums folder. This is probably intended, guessing, to be more like a typical, maybe electronic or drum kit context meant for that sort of thing, or maybe not. Maybe it's just like percussive stuff. I still construct my drums even with like orchestral or cinematic percussion in a way that's sort of similar to a drum kit, because that just tends to work the best if depending on what you're doing. But we'll see how this turns out, you know, what kind of changes we'll bump into. And pro tip, put the plugin on so you can hear what it does. That's a free tip, you don't have to pay me anything. Obviously, we have a bit of a level boost there as well, but that seems like it's, let's have a look. Bit of convolution, giving it, well, it says live room IR. So boosting the kind of, or enhancing the immersion of that, bit of EQ, bit of compression. So this has quite a bit of things in its toolkits, not just for rhythm delays and reverb. Let's continue on. So that's probably intended to be like effect send additional stuff. Don't like not throwing in an entire orchestral percussive section in there. And again, this says squashed snare plate, so yeah, these seem to be sort of, yeah, more utilitarian. To serve kind of specific mix purposes, seems like. Different plates. We have a bunch of gated stuff. Bright snare ambience. Yeah, so this is not gonna do much for us here. Yeah, more like utilitarian reverberation, spatial stuff for drums. Obviously, nothing stopping us from going into the creative echoes. So this would really be the place where I would go for this section if I were to take that path. Sometimes, like, I like to, with this soundtrack, I like to use something like a granular effects processor just to create a bit of that additional movement and dimension there, and also tie the electronic elements with the organic elements. So this, like, that's why I'm going through this the way that I am. But they can add like a interesting creative dimension to your sound, and also interesting movement dimension to your sound. A bit of something that's moving there in the background. Yeah, so not tremendous examples of this. Definitely not like presets trying to serve that kind of function. So, cool. Let's go into the... I'm going to go back to the strings here and do some of the reverbs. So this should be interesting. Let's do immense, because I really want to hear what these do. Yeah, so we would definitely need something that moves slower here, because this is definitely going for that like massive cinematic sound. We could actually just play something. super vibey. Let's do another one of those. Let's do Dark Eververb. That's a cool name. Limiter clipping. Yeah, I mean, beautiful soundscapes. Here, again, we have to be, anytime you're dealing with pads, you have to be mindful of those resonant areas because, well, some of the frequencies are going to resonate more on the instrument itself, and then some of them are going to resonate in the reverb as well. So that's why it's a bit tough to find the level here without controlling those resonances. Let's do The Great Beyond. But this is a great example of, like, we're dealing with, I mean, again, this is the string sound without vast. So that's what we're dealing with, and then you can throw something like this on and it becomes like a massive soundscape, cinematic, synthy tool builder, whatever. Obviously, this sound lets more of that string quality through, but some of the earlier ones definitely less so. Let's do Frozen Sea. Yeah, I mean, super vibey, beautiful soundscapes. Really good for this kind of stuff, you know, big reverb, very vibey, very moody. Makes you instantly depressed, but in a good way. Really liking this. Let's do Cosmos because that's a small, humble name. again, beautiful example of taking something more organic and just kind of synthifying it in a way. I mean, it's also more like a reverb, but yeah, I mean, super nice. We could do a hall here as well. Let's look for something. Let's do lush scoring hall. Maybe something more sort of normal for these strings. Yeah. So the thing about this, it seems to cover a lot of ground. Like, it's doing the creative thing. It also does this kind of rhythmic echo creative thing. Big, super vast reverbs. But also these sound. Let's do another one. Let's do large modulated hall. Yeah, very cool. I wouldn't put this in like, it's not trying to be just like super normal and realistic in that sense. Definitely has that kind of a darker, twisted character, like that presence. And I mean that in a good way. So it does have that kind of imprint to me. But the fact that it does so much, like you, in this sort of typical reverb department, you have rooms, halls, large, immense plates and springs. So it covers like most of your, well, I mean, depending on what you do, could cover all of your bases there. And then you have all of this, you know, creative pool to draw from as well. So it's a pretty vast offering, I would say. No, but like in all seriousness, there's getting a lot of bang for your buck. So let's say, you know, you don't have a ton of money to use, but you're doing a lot of stuff from like normal reverb needs to more creative stuff in sound design. If you only could go for one, this is definitely there in the conversation. Let's do reverses. Yeah, that's definitely the limiter clipping. I'm sorry about that. Super resonant sound. Yeah, we're not going to play with that because that's just a lot of build up there with these strings. Actually, let's shift gears here and do the reverses on the synth because we need something more transient. super cool. I mean, again, the texture, the color, the very, 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 very nice. This is really, to me, like the biggest strength here, hands down. Yeah, I love anytime I have a tool that can impart those sort of material qualities. Like if something sounds sort of metallic or rubbery or something, we definitely hear metal here more than I've heard a lot of other of those things. Obviously, we've only touched a few of these, but definitely does that, getting that metal quality there, like hearing that material is very impressive. That's, again, fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna try not to repeat myself too much, but yeah, definitely the sound design creative aspect of this is super, super cool. And that I can take a sound, put it in a different place. That's very, very nice. I'm going to try some of the guitar stuff here. So some of these are named with, you know, in these sort of brackets. So rhythmic, echo, etc. I really like that because it gives me a fast idea of what I'm dealing with. And like I touched on in the beginning, I would maybe prefer that kind of a categorization in a tool. Like I want to know as fast, you know, again, is it like a rhythmic quality or is it something else? Is it like a lusher thing that we're dealing with? And also like texture, like give me an idea of what it's going to impart there. Because I don't tremendously care about what something is designed for, because sounds can be so different that it's completely contextual to the qualities of the actual sound source. But let's try some of these. Really like that. It's some of the compression here, I think, is doing some of that popping there, and we did get a bit of limiter clipping there as well. Really like the basic principle of that, though. Really, really, really nice. Liking the sound of that delay. I mean, so far, I think most of the examples we've tried have had this delay mode in digital. That analog one sounds very pleasant and kind of softer and moves around. So very, very impressed by that. You're really getting a fantastic delay here as well. So again, from that bang for your buck perspective, you don't have a lot of money, but you're looking for something fantastic that does a lot of things without any loss of fidelity. This definitely has to be there in the conversation. And also you can use the compressor on its own, which, you know, we haven't tried it on itself here. But again, I'm not hearing any anytime the compressor has been in the play, any unpleasantness coming from that. So it's probably pretty well tuned. But again, that's not a statement of what it is, because we haven't tried it on its own. But yeah, and I believe there is a demo version of this, like a trial thing, so you can definitely try it yourself. But yeah, I mean, the bang for the buck aspect of this, because this delay sounds fantastic, and especially with the soundstage, the imaging properties that this has displayed, it's just fantastic. So I mean, this has to be in the conversation for, like, I can only, you know, if I can only get one thing and I need good reverbs, good delays, something creative, something that does a vast amount of different things, this definitely is in the conversation. That is a fantastic sounding delay. That is super, super good. Really shows how far things have, you know, come in you know, today. That's super impressive how it kind of focuses, like there's like a low mid build up there, but it's there, and I have to listen to that again. So I was playing with the time there, but we have that back and forth kind of reflective thing going on there. Then we have a bit of distortion noise there, and then we have that kind of blob of the mid stuff there. That's beautiful. Like, the imaging stuff here is fantastic. Super cool. That would be very nice for, like, something lying in the area between, like, atmosphere sound with a bit of movement. Yeah, I really like the naming style they've used here with some of these. I really like knowing, you know, am I dealing with something rhythmic? Am I dealing with, like, what's the word, texture they're using here? I wish there was an option to have that for every single sound. Would make the, you know, going through these a lot easier. So yeah, I'm hoping for more of that. Let's do Ping Pong Groove. Yeah, I turned off the convolution there. We had a limiter blowing out there, but because I made the connection that probably the imaging property here, why it's so impressive, comes from the convolution. It seems to be the case. It's just fantastic. Yep, very, very nice. I wonder what we have. So we don't have any vocals here to test with. All right, well, I think we're going to call it here for today. Didn't have a tremendous selection of sources here, but I hope we demonstrated enough of what this has going on here. Hands down, the best thing about this is the fact that it can take a sound and put it in a very different creative place, different texture, different soundscape, different feel. It evokes something different in me, puts the sound in a very different emotional state. And on top of that, the imaging here is fantastic. The mixing here is fantastic. You get so much movement, so much life without any, clutter, any buildup. Everything is sitting in a brilliant place. So even though I have a sound source that still needs a bunch of work, it's taking that and just churning out something beautifully imaged and balanced. So that's super impressive. I think that can take a lot of people's tracks in production and mixing to a super nice place. As long as you're being, tasteful about what you do and conscious, then, this is very, very impressive in that regard. And yeah, like I said, like as a composer, I want, I have a sound that I want to use, but I want more. Like, what is the specific soundscape and place where the sound sits, and what are the qualities and the textures and the colors that I want to impart so that it's more accurately conveying what I'm after. And even sometimes I might not even know what I'm after, but I go through these presets and it throws me in a different place, and I go, ooh, that's actually interesting, super nice, hey, maybe that could actually work, and then I can incorporate that. So I want to use the work of world-class sound designers to improve my compositions and pursue my compositions and see them come alive. Because a lot of the time you cannot think of, it's hard to step outside of the mindset where you are right now, and these things can throw you in a different place. Oh, like what if we do this with the sound? And you're like, that's interesting, maybe I can incorporate that or a part of that, and that actually makes me think maybe this sound needs a bit of more work and needs to be put in a different place and given different textures and colors, etc. So I'm always looking for those tools as a composer and as a producer, and this does that fantastically. And also like the mixing, the fidelity, the quality of this, and how mature it is in terms of its how it's designed, how it's put together, how these effects are tuned so that they, in a mixing sense, work really, really well is super impressive. So that's the number one thing. In terms of the reverbs here, we only tried them on like, a bunch of strings here. Based on this, not giving like a super realistic sound, like not pursuing that kind of a thing to me, but more like it has a vibe, has that kind of darker, twisted quality. And granted, we only touched on a couple of here, so I could be completely wrong about that, or I would have to revise that statement after going through more of these. And again, we didn't use this on stuff like, typical drums or, any kind of typical band instrument. And to be fair, I didn't even expect that these options to be in here. I didn't expect like a typical room, hall, large plate, spring options to even be here. I thought this would just be like big reverbs and a lot of creative stuff. So the fact that it's in here, again, increases the bang for the buck aspect here, that you can do those things. And I'm sure many of the IRs here are fantastic for those kind of things as well. And you have to remember that all of this is tweakable. So if the preset has something going on with whatever effects are here, you can turn them on and off. So yeah, and also the big lush, not only the spacey stuff, but a lot of like sound design, soundscape building stuff. Like if you're building very moody, cinematic, big, undulating, swelling, shifting, reverbs and sounds, this does that fantastically clearly as well, and I expected it to do that. But yeah, so for that kind of stuff, strongly recommended. And again, like the bang for the buck aspect with the reverbs is really worthwhile exploring. I believe there is a demo of this, so go demo it yourself and see how they sound and let me know. And also the bang for the buck aspect, the delay here sounds really, really super sweet, really super good. So that on its own, if you're paying like $59 if you get the discount for that, I would pay that for a really good delay. Now, granted, does this seem to offer like infinite possibilities and flexibility? No. It has a time control, spread, analog digital mode. Then you have a quality knob here, which probably kind of increases or decreases the lo-fi-ness of it. Pitch control, yeah, I mean, so, but it sounds fantastic, and you got most, if not everything you need here. Modulation, amount, yeah, that sounded fantastic. And it obviously have a compressor here. Again, we didn't shoot it out, do a shootout of it on its own, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's pretty, utilitarian and has many use cases. So definitely that, and I don't say the bang for the buck aspect here to lower the quality of any of the other things that I mentioned, because they certainly don't. It's like a fantastic extension of what it does brilliantly already. But yeah, I mean, first and foremost, big creative sound design shifts that it can do in the delay reverb department. So really interesting tool, a lot to look at here. I definitely am going to be utilizing this on this soundtrack, because like I said, one of the sounds did precisely what I would want to do for this synthy bleepy bloppy sound here. That was like a perfect pairing. And also I do use a lot of like massive reverbs for this soundtrack, because a lot of the tracks are just like space ambient music basically. So I'm definitely going to have to shoot this against the reverbs that I'm currently using here, and see if I could take this not only as something that provides a better reverb solution, but also adds that creative dimension there. Because some of the things I heard here were super impressive in terms of imaging and placement and texture. And so I wouldn't be surprised if this will, what's the word that I'm looking for? Displace? No. But yeah, it's gonna probably kick some of those reverbs out and add that extra dimension of sound design and mixing quality that can be so difficult to get otherwise. And again, like I said, it just puts you in a different frame of mind. It's like, ooh, hey, that's actually a quality that I want to impart onto this song. So cool. Very impressed by this. I would love to hear thoughts and opinions from you, because this is such a unique tool and has so many creative aspects in it that it's in that sense very different from just a reverb or just a delay. It's clearly built and designed to be a creative assistant and toolkit. So I would love to hear your experiences with it, and also if you played with just the kind of the impulse response, typical reverb stuff of this, which we didn't really dive into much, but yeah, definitely going to be using this. So thank you to Heavyocity again for sending this over. To those of you listening and watching, thank you for tuning in. Let me know what you think down in the comments, either of this reverb or this video. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Finished.